I think about being 80 years old. I think about it more than most people my age do. And when I imagine myself at 80, looking back at my life, I ask one question: will I regret the things I didn't do more than the things I did? The answer to that question shaped every major decision I've made. And if you don't understand this now, you will hate your life when you reach that age. Let me tell you what I see. I see people in their 20s, 30s, 40s making safe choices, comfortable choices. They stay in jobs they don't like because the paycheck is reliable. They don't start that business because it might fail. They don't move to that city because it's risky. They don't pursue that relationship because they might get hurt. They build entire lives around avoiding regret, and in doing so, they guarantee it. Here's what nobody tells you about regret. The things you do, even if they fail, fade in significance over time. You try something, it doesn't work, you feel bad for a while, then you move on. You learn something, you grow, the sting goes away. But the things you don't do, the chances you don't take, those haunt you forever. They become the ghost of the life you could have lived. I learned this before I started Amazon. I was working at a hedge fund in New York. Great job, excellent pay, clear path to partnership, safe, comfortable, predictable. Then I saw the internet growing at 2,300% per year. I saw an opportunity that might never come again, and I had to choose between safety and possibility. I developed what I called the regret minimization framework. I projected myself forward to age 80 and asked which choice I would regret more. Would I regret leaving a comfortable job to chase an uncertain dream? Or would I regret never trying, always wondering what could have been? The answer was obvious. At 80, I wouldn't care about leaving a good job, but I would definitely care about not trying when I had the chance. That framework saved me from the trap most people fall into. They optimize for comfort today at the expense of fulfillment tomorrow. They mistake the absence of immediate pain for the presence of long-term satisfaction. But these are not the same thing. You can be comfortable and deeply unfulfilled. You can avoid risk and still end up with massive regret. Let me be specific about what creates regret at 80. It's not the mistakes you made. It's not the failures you experienced. It's not the embarrassments you suffered. Those are stories. They're texture. They're proof you lived. What creates regret is the unopened doors, the unasked questions, the untaken chances, the life you were too afraid to reach for. I talk to older people regularly, successful people who built impressive careers. And you know what I hear? They talk about the business they almost started, the person they almost asked out, the adventure they almost took, the passion they almost pursued. Almost. That word appears over and over, and it's the saddest word in the English language. Here's why this happens. When you're young, you think you have infinite time. 30 years old feels young. 40 is still middle age. 50 is when you'll get serious. But then you blink and you're 65, and the window for certain opportunities has closed. You can't start that physically demanding adventure company. You don't have the energy to build a startup from scratch. Your kids are grown and gone. Time, which felt abundant, reveals itself to have been scarce all along. The brutal truth is that time is your only non-renewable resource. You can always make more money, you can build new relationships, you can learn new skills, but you cannot make more time. Every day you spend not pursuing what matters to you is a day you never get back. And when you're 80, looking back at decades of days you didn't use well, the weight of that waste is crushing. Now, let me address the fear that stops people from acting. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of losing what they have. These fears feel enormous when you're in the middle of them. But from the perspective of 80 years old, they're tiny, insignificant, almost laughable. Think about your biggest fear right now. Maybe it's starting a business that might fail. Maybe it's pursuing a creative passion that might not pay off. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation that might damage a relationship. Whatever it is, imagine looking back at it from age 80. How big does it seem then? How much do you care about the temporary discomfort compared to the permanent regret of never trying? This shift in perspective changes everything. When you view your current decisions through the lens of your 80-year-old self, what seems risky now often seems like the only logical choice. The real risk isn't trying and failing. The real risk is not trying and wondering forever. Let me talk about the specific areas where people accumulate the most regret. First is career. People spend 40 years in jobs they tolerate because they're afraid to pursue work they actually care about. They tell themselves they'll do what they love later, after they've saved enough money or gained enough security. But later never comes, or it comes too late, when their energy and health are depleted. I'm not saying everyone should quit their job and chase a dream tomorrow, but I am saying that if you're spending the majority of your waking hours doing work that doesn't engage you, that doesn't challenge you, that doesn't matter to you, you are wasting your life. And at 80, you will feel that waste acutely. The excuse I hear is that people have responsibilities, bills to pay, families to support. These are real. But they're also often excuses to avoid the hard work of figuring out what you actually want and building toward it. You don't have to make dramatic overnight changes, but you do have to start moving in the direction of work that matters to you. Small steps compound. A few hours a week on a side project becomes a new skill set. A new skill set becomes a new opportunity. A new opportunity becomes a new career. The second area of regret is relationships. People stay in marriages that died years ago because divorce is hard. They maintain friendships that drain them because ending them feels mean. They don't express love to people who matter because vulnerability feels risky. And then those people are gone, and the chance to connect is lost forever. Here's what I know about relationships. The ones that matter are worth fighting for, worth being vulnerable in, worth taking risks for. And the ones that don't matter are actively harmful if you let them consume your time and energy. At 80, you will not regret the relationship you fought to save or the connection you bravely pursued. You will regret the love you didn't express and the toxic relationships you didn't leave. The third area is experiences. People save adventures for retirement. They postpone travel until they have more money or more time. They don't learn that skill or try that hobby because they're too busy with obligations. Then retirement comes and their health isn't what it was, or their spouse is sick, or the world has changed and the opportunity no longer exists. Your body and mind are at their peak right now compared to any future version of you. If there's something you want to do that requires physical capability or mental sharpness, waiting makes no sense. I'm not advocating for reckless spending or irresponsible choices, but I am saying that experiences have an expiration date, and postponing them indefinitely is a choice to never have them. The fourth area is impact. People think about making a difference but never actually do it. They want to mentor young people but never reach out. They want to contribute to causes they care about but never volunteer. They want to create something meaningful but never start. At 80, the gap between the impact you wanted to make and the impact you actually made will be painfully visible. Now, let me give you the framework for making decisions that minimize regret. It's simple but requires honesty with yourself. For any major decision, ask these questions. First, if this works out well, how will I feel about it at 80? Second, if this fails completely, how will I feel about it at 80? Third, if I don't do this at all, how will I feel about it at 80? When you answer honestly, the right choice usually becomes clear. The key insight is that you will almost never regret trying something that was important to you, even if it failed. But you will almost always regret not trying something that was important to you, even if staying comfortable was easier. Let me give you a concrete example from my own life. When I decided to start Amazon, the safe choice was staying at the hedge fund. If Amazon failed, I would have lost time and money and potentially looked foolish. But if I didn't try, I would have spent the rest of my life wondering what could have been. The regret of not trying was clearly going to be larger than the regret of trying and failing. So the choice was obvious. This doesn't mean I wasn't scared. I was terrified. Starting a company is hard and uncertain and stressful. But fear is not a reason to avoid something. Fear is just information. It tells you that something matters enough to scare you. And often, the things that scare you are exactly the things you need to do. Here's another crucial point. Regret doesn't just come from big decisions. It accumulates through thousands of small choices. the conversation you didn't have, the compliment you didn't give, the apology you didn't make, the thank you note you didn't send. These seem insignificant in the moment, but they compound. A lifetime of small failures to act, to connect, to express adds up to a deep well of regret. The good news is that small positive actions also compound. Starting today, you can choose differently. You can have the difficult conversation, you can express appreciation, you can take the small risk, you can move one step toward the life you actually want. None of these actions are dramatic, but repeated over years, they create a completely different trajectory. Let me address the people who think they're too old to change. You're not. As long as you're breathing, you have time to reduce future regret. Yes, some opportunities are time limited. You probably can't become an Olympic athlete if you're 50. But you can still start that business, learn that language, repair that relationship, create that art, travel to that place. Most of what matters is still available to you. The danger is using age as an excuse to stop trying. I meet 60-year-olds who are more alive and engaged than 30-year-olds. The difference isn't their age, it's their mindset. The alive ones are still curious, still building, still taking chances. The dead ones stopped trying years ago and are just waiting for their body to catch up with their spirit. Here's what I want you to understand. Your life is happening right now. Not when you have more money, not when you have more time, not when conditions are perfect. Right now, and every day you spend waiting for the right moment is a day you're choosing comfort over fulfillment. At 80, that choice will seem insane. I think about my own mortality regularly. It's not morbid, it's clarifying. Knowing that my time is limited makes me selective about how I spend it. I don't waste time on things that don't matter. I don't maintain relationships that are hollow. I don't pursue goals that aren't meaningful to me. Death is the thing that gives life urgency and meaning. Most people avoid thinking about death. They find it depressing or scary. But avoiding it doesn't make it go away. It just makes you less intentional about the time you have. When you accept that your life will end, you start making different choices. You stop postponing what matters. You stop tolerating what doesn't. You start living like someone who knows time is precious. Let me give you a specific action plan for minimizing regret. First, make a list of the things you would regret not doing before you die. Be specific. Not vague wishes like be happy, but concrete things like start that business, write that book, reconcile with that person, learn to speak Spanish, visit Japan. Write them all down. Second, for each item, ask why you haven't done it yet. Be honest. Usually the answer is some combination of fear, comfort, and postponement. I'm afraid it won't work. I'm comfortable where I am. I'll do it later when conditions are better. Recognize these for what they are. Excuses. Third, pick one item and identify the smallest possible action you could take toward it this week. Not the whole thing, just the first tiny step. If you want to start a business, the first step might be researching your market for 2 hours. If you want to write a book, it might be writing 500 words. If you want to reconcile with someone, it might be drafting an email. Make the step so small that fear can't stop you. Fourth, take that step, not tomorrow, not next week, today, right after you finish watching this video. The gap between intention and action is where dreams die and regret is born. Close that gap, act immediately on what matters. Fifth, repeat. Every week, take another small step towards something on your list. You will be shocked at how quickly small actions compound into major progress. In 6 months, you will have moved meaningfully toward multiple important goals. In a year, some of them will be complete. In 5 years, your life will be unrecognizable. This is not complicated, but it requires courage. The courage to be honest about what you want, the courage to act despite fear, the courage to prioritize long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. Most people don't have this courage. They drift through life on the path of least resistance, accumulating regrets like barnacles on a ship. But you're different. You're watching this video, which means some part of you knows you want more. Some part of you is tired of playing small. Some part of you is ready to start living intentionally instead of accidentally. Listen to that part. It's the part that will thank you when you're 80. I'll end with this. I have many advantages, resources, opportunities, platform, but I don't have more time than you do. We're all hurtling toward the same ending. The only question is what we do with the time we have. I've chosen to spend mine building things that matter, taking chances that scare me, and living without regret. That's available to you too. Not the same specifics, but the same approach, the same intentionality, the same courage. When you're 80, looking back at your life, you will care about only a few things. Did you love deeply? Did you create something meaningful? Did you take the chances that mattered? Did you become who you were capable of becoming? These questions have nothing to do with money or status or what other people think. They have everything to do with whether you had the courage to live according to your own values instead of someone else's expectations. If you don't start answering these questions now, through your actions and choices, you will hate your life at 80. Not because you failed, but because you never really tried. Not because things went wrong, but because you never really went after what you wanted. The time to act is not later, it's now. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content on living intentionally and building a life without regret. Drop a comment and tell me what's on your list. What's the one thing you would regret not doing? Let's hold each other accountable. Your 80-year-old self is counting on you. Don't let them down.